have less shock travel. Ow! Something hit me in the face.
That's kind of surprising to me. Can you make something better, but also make it worse? That is the question that we are exploring today with this, the new Morgan Super 3. You see, the Morgan three-wheeler that they made from 2012 until 2021 was either the worst best vehicle of all time or the best worst vehicle of all time. Its badness was what made it so delightful. With a motorcycle-based air-cooled V-twin engine, very quirky handling characteristics, and questionable build quality, the Morgan three-wheeler was not the greatest car ever made. In fact, it's not even a car. It was technically a motorcycle. But if you go watch the video I made a few years ago driving one, it's very rare that I have more fun in anything ever. This car is so great! So loud! Its badness was so good that it made the car great. So today, Zack and I are up here with the Super 3, the improved Morgan three-wheeler. It has an engine from a car rather than a motorcycle. It has new unibody construction, devoid of wood, in fact. You can't make that joke anymore. It has better handling, better brakes, better build quality, etc., etc. But do those things result in a better three-wheeler or a worse one? Folks, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing today without our sponsor, Exter. We love these guys, and Exter is more than just wallets. It's a connected system of everyday carry goods that help you move through the day more efficiently. Exter was started by two Fulbright scholars who were frustrated with the fact that wallet development seems to have stopped sometime in the 1800s, and they thought, what would a 21st century wallet look like? Well, it would look like this. These RFID resistant slim wallets are made from recycled aluminum, vegan recycled leather, making them both durable and sustainable. The push button design fans out all your cards super quick so you can access what you need with the least amount of wasted space and the most efficiency. The original folding wallet, their best seller, is made from LFG synthetic leather and even has an option on the outside for an Apple AirTag so you never lose your wallet again. And these new aluminum card holders are even slimmer and the most durable wallets ever made. Plus, they have a new innovation, the RFID resistant cover on the back, so you can get even more cards on the outside of your wallet with that RFID protection that Exter is known for. And Exter's not just wallets. They have everything you need to speed up your life, from trackable keychains to power banks to bags and cases for all of your electronic carry. You know how it is. We got to carry stuff around now. You need protection for it all. You need style, and Exter's got it. Hit the link in the video description for 20% off site-wide and use code TST for an additional 5% off.
Wait! Now, I actually never drove the last generation of Morgan three-wheeler. So I'm going to let Matt talk about that in a second. But I'm going to compare this to the most recent three-wheeler we both drove, which is the 2023 Polaris Slingshot. The one with the revised chassis, the better suspension, the better alignment, etc., etc. Now, if you want to watch a true deep dive review on that car or motorcycle from both of us, you can watch that video. The description is below. And if you watch that video, you'll remember we were surprised at how agile and planted the front end was. It handled really well, but the front end is also wider than the front track of a Porsche GT3. In fact, that Slingshot is 77 inches wide. It's 5 inches wider than this thing. Also, the front tires are 225s. These tires are like 4 inches wide. They're like thick mountain bike tires. So we have a much smaller contact patch. We have a narrower stance or a narrower track. I also think the alignment on this is different. It feels very vertical, feels like there's no camber and no toe. It's just made for going straight on the highway. The Polaris was really eager to turn. It also had power steering, This has manual steering. All of that means that it's harder to turn this car and it has less grip. Let me show you. You need a lot more effort to turn the wheel. Oh, the wheels really want to keep going straight. I'm using my body, I'm using my shoulders, and there's a little bit of understeer happening, but I can't really hear it, and I can barely feel it. It's minute, but it feels like I'm understeering a bicycle, which is a very new sensation. Honestly, I feel like I'm racing something in the 20s. I feel like I'm racing, the original Alpha 8C, or a shrunken blower Bentley, or a racing Model T. And now I understand why all the photos of those folks that were racing, when they were driving, they were leaning into it. They're using their whole body to turn. To drive this quickly, you can't really use gentle movements. There's no fingertip steering. It's a full body experience, but it makes it really fun. And on the way up here, I thought I was going so fast. I was driving about as hard as I could drive this thing. And I got to a stop sign, and Matt was there in the Mach-E 1.5 seconds after me. And he described his driving as cruising plus. So it feels like you're going really fast because it's requiring thought and effort and planning and care, woo, and bravery. But you're actually not going that fast. So in that regard, if you wanted a three-wheeler that was a fun thing to drive in the canyons or on a B road, and it was really competing with, I'd say, a BRZ or a Miata in terms of feeling like a sports car, the Polaris Slingshot's the way to go. Other than the rear suspension being a little weird in the corners, the front end, from your shoulders forward, the Polaris Slingshot feels like a modern sports car. This feels like an old sports car or an old race car. But that's part of what makes the Morgan three-wheeler, this one or the previous one, fun and exciting. They feel old. The last one sounded old. It looks like something that was made in the 30s by a test pilot, but it also feels like something from the future. I feel like I could travel through a time portal and then I'd pop out like Looper, and I'd have a task to do, and I'd get back in my Morgan three-wheeler and I'd go through time again to a new mission. It's kind of steampunk. It's kind of aerospace. Is it made from an old plane? I don't know. Is it a belly racer from Bonneville? Kind of. Would I want to go over 100 miles per hour in it? Definitely not. While the steering is heavy, it's very accurate. There's no slop in the wheel. There's no dead space in the center. Every little bit of, every millimeter of input changes the direction of the car. The old three-wheeler sounded cooler. This just sounds like a modern whatever inline engine. So does the Polaris Slingshot. They're kind of even in that regard. But this does not have enough brake. The Slingshot didn't have enough brake. It had 200 horsepower. This has about 120. But the brakes in this, they're soft when they're cold, they're soft when they're hot. I don't know, it's got disc brakes, and they clearly have plenty of cooling, but they need some pads or some fluid or something. Because if you come up here and you start really enjoying the steering and the shifter and you start going for it, you're gonna run out of brake real quick. Definitely moves more over the bumps than the Polaris. Again, that narrower track, we have smaller swing arms, we have less shock travel. Ow! Something hit me in the face. These windshields need to be about 2 feet taller. It moves around more than the Slingshot. The body gets disturbed more. I cannot go nearly as fast on this road as I did in that thing. But I'm having more fun. I'm having way more fun. I like the way it looks. I like the view out the front. I like the playful friendliness of the shape. I feel like I was at Gatsby's party and I was flirting with someone's wife and now I'm escaping. You can't catch me. All right, what if we don't drive it at that speed? What if we slow down to a cruise? I drove it on the highway here, and it's not the most comfortable thing in the world. These seats could use more shaping. They're just okay. I'm about 5'10". I think if you were 5'7" or shorter, you'd have trouble operating the steering wheel correctly. I have the pedals all the way towards me. The gauges are bright, they're easy to read, I like them, I like the style of it. There's a lot more whimsy to this, for me, than the Polaris Slingshot. The Slingshot's just not my style. It's like nu metal or Skrillex, but in a car vehicle form. Although, it does cost nearly twice as much. This starts at $55,000. The Slingshot starts at around $21,000. Slingshot was easier to drive on the highway. It's more softly sprung. In general, if you close your eyes, the Slingshot's a better vehicle to operate. But for some reason, this is more fun. The Slingshot felt like a three-wheeler that did a pretty good impression of a car. This does not feel like a good impression of a car. This feels like something of its own. This feels unique. Now, how does this compare to the last three-wheeler made by Morgan? Well, that's gonna be Matt's question to answer because he has real seat time in that. I've never driven that one. So we're gonna give this over to him now.
Okay, so here's the thing. You can't fault them for trying, right? Owners, customers, journalists, they complained about the last three-wheeler. It overheated because an air-cooled motorcycle engine really shouldn't be propelling a car. It vibrated because that same air-cooled motorcycle engine just shook everything, and that contributed to some reliability and durability issues. That whole wood thing, it's not great in the 2020s. And so you've got this one. And it's better. It's a monocoque. In fact, believe it or not, it shares a platform with the Morgan Plus 4. Can't believe you look at this thing and go, yeah, that's a platform shared vehicle, but it is. A 1.5 liter engine is from a Ford, and it makes more horsepower and torque than the air-cooled engine, and most importantly, it doesn't overheat in traffic. It's under stress. It's just a little car engine. There's not much to it. But the thing is, the old one sounded like World War II aircraft. I mean, it made the most unbelievable sound from those pipes. That was 90% of its charm. This one just sounds like a Fiesta with too big of a pipe on it. Now that doesn't make this not objectively better in some observable ways. It has a USB port, it's got heat, it's got heated seats, it's got proper gauges that show you the truth. These are good things. Adjustable pedals so drivers of multiple sizes can fit in theory. It's got an attempt at storage with these side pods that you can strap luggage onto. In general, they've tried to take this thing and bring it a little closer to modern times. The problem with that is, it takes a lot of the charm out of it. It doesn't fizz with energy the way the old one did. It's still a delightful driving experience. The inputs are still very good. There's still no power steering. There's still minimal power braking. The brake pedal feel is very good, although the brakes are not very good. I'm surprised. I continue to be surprised that both Polaris and Morgan have a car that's 1,400 pounds and doesn't have enough brakes. That's weird to me. I'm also surprised that it's got 2 wheels in the front and 1 in the back, and the tendency is understeer. That's kind of surprising to me. But at the same time, this is still the slow car fast champion. You can drive this thing as fast as it will go and not draw the ire of law enforcement in any way. You have done something deeply wrong if you get a speeding ticket in one of these. It's so fun at regular people's speeds, and that comes from its lightweight, its manual controls, its engaging vibe, the fact that you can watch the front suspension work. It's still very charming. At least 5 or 6 people in the one day I have been driving this have asked me about it. People have asked to sit in it. People have asked for rides in it. People of all ages, colors, shapes, and sizes. There is a size limit to the Morgan Super 3, and I am it. If you're bigger than me, don't even try. My right glute is sort of bruised from the transmission tunnel here. Putting the seatbelt on is sort of a disaster. Okay, look. I'm fat, I get it. But to put the seatbelt on this, I have to actually sit on the transmission tunnel and then put that in and then sit back down. I can't actually buckle up in the seat.
I can't either.
Oh, you can't?
I gotta move too.
Okay, good. When I have a problem and then a thin person has the same problem, I feel a lot better about life. All right, now up the hill, we're gonna go quick. So it doesn't feel like a World War II fighter plane anymore. And that's kind of a bummer. But even at these relatively low speeds, I feel everything else. Clutch is super light, so even if you're not super proficient with a manual gearbox, you can drive this without any trouble. The steering has really nice weight at these sort of medium speeds. Of course, the problem is, if I try to turn it more than 45 degrees, my left arm is outside the vehicle. I lose all my leverage. 5-speed manual gearbox, same as before, it's from a Miata. Good shift engagement, easy to use. This road's gonna be all 3rd and 4th gear. It's just so weird. It's lovely to cruise in on like PCH, a good 2-lane, where you don't have to fight the wheel with this bulkhead here on the left. But the fact that it's more modern than the old three-wheeler really just means my expectations are higher. Morgan says this will do 130 miles an hour, but I don't want any part of that. I got this thing up to about 80 yesterday, and then I ran out of bravery real quick. Just because it doesn't have the motorcycle engine doesn't mean the sound isn't pleasant. When you get up over about 4,500 RPM, it is a pleasant sound. It's just on a basis of comparison, it's not Spitfire. Just like the old three-wheeler, this one does have the sort of problem of not being able to straddle stuff. You gotta always have one wheel that's gonna hit something. You just gotta pick which one it's gonna be. Before you call total sacrilege, just remember there is a precedent for this. From 1930 to 1952, Morgan did build Ford car engine powered three-wheelers. They only did the V-twins until the 30s, and then they used car engines for 20 years before discontinuing the three-wheeler for 60 years. I would probably rather own this one, because you could use it more without worrying about it like overheating and falling apart, okay? But as a journalist, I'd rather spend a day driving that one because it was so riotously good for that one moment where I drove it with Alex that I'd want to relive that. If this was a fifth car, a 10th car, a real once-in-a-while thing, buy the old one. If it's a second car, because if this is your first car, I mean, you're brave. As a second car, you want it to work. You don't want it to be a headache, even if it's compromised in terms of what you can carry and things like that. So, second car, Super 3. Fifth, sixth car, old three-wheeler with the V-twin. Thanks for watching.
And remember, always fight your tickets on the Off the Record app available in the Android and iOS store, or go to offtherecord.com/TST.